Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining our event 100% Europe, our 2021 edition. My name is Thierry Louvet. I'm Europe and International Affairs Director at Systematic Paris Region, the European Deep Tech Cluster. I will be your host for this event. And if you allow me, I want to take you through our program for today. For the conference part, which should come up now on this slide. So we have, first of all, a roundtable, during which we will discuss the role of European clusters in addressing the twin transition, that is the green and digital transition under Horizon Europe, with three speakers: Ulla ENGELMANN from the European Commission, Ulla SVEDIN from Mobile Heights, Swedish cluster, and Jean-Luc from Systematic Paris Region. At 11, we'll have a second roundtable where we will have some concrete example of what clusters and their members, in this case SMEs, can get when participating in the EU funded projects. And you have the names of the speakers there: Angelika MURR from Germany, Rubén González Bernal from Spain, and Alexis BEROLATTI from France. And at 12, starting at 12, we'll have 1 hour pitch session with 12 presentations from representatives of SMEs and research organizations who are ready to embrace the topics and the challenges from the Horizon Europe program. So that's the menu for today. I will conclude just before 1 o'clock. And after 1 o'clock, which will be the end of the conference, we'll have, after that, at 2 o'clock, starting at 2 o'clock, the matchmaking session. Anyway, without further ado, I would like to open our first roundtable and welcome our three panelists, starting with Ulla ENGELMANN. Ulla, if you could say a few words to present yourself to our audience.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Ulla ENGELMANN, and I'm in the European Commission in DG Growth, acting director for networks and governance, as well as I'm also the head of unit for industrial forum, alliances and clusters. And so my unit is also dealing with all kinds of networks, like the EEN's Enterprise Europe network. And from my background, I have a scientific background. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ulla. Thank you for joining today. Our next speaker is Ulla SVEDIN, CEO of Mobile Heights. Ulla, if you could say a few words. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me. Yes, I am the CEO of Mobile Heights, and Mobile Heights, that is the tech cluster of South Sweden. I am also chairman of the board for the newly formed National Cluster Association in Sweden, which is called Clusters of Sweden. My background is in the industry. I've been working both in large corporations and also in the startup space. So looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Ulla. And by the way, South Sweden, that's Lund, isn't it?
Yes, so we are actually, the offices are in Lund, which is the university town in south of Sweden.
Great, thank you very much. And our third speaker is Jean-Luc, President of Systematic. Good morning, Jean-Luc. If you want to say a few words about yourself and Systematic to our audience.
Thank you, Thierry. Good morning, everyone. So I am Jean-Luc. I am the chairman of the Systematic Cluster. I am also the chairman of the French Association of Competitive Cluster in France. And in the life, I'm managing the ecosystem for Nokia at large over the world.
Thank you very much, Jean-Luc. Okay, so I suggest that we begin with the topic of our session today, and by asking you, Ulla, basically what is or should be, in your opinion, from the European Commission point of view, obviously, the role of clusters when addressing the green and digital transition. So the floor is yours for 10 minutes, Ulla.
Okay, thank you very much.
And you should be able to move your slides yourself. If not, let me know.
Yeah, it works. Thank you. So I would want to put in perspective on the green and digital transition what on the Commission side we are doing and what we are proposing. So we look forward to have this very, let's say, approach on co-creation in order to bring together what has to be done for, on one hand, the twin transition, digital and green, by at the same time fostering resilience. And for this, as in the industrial strategy, which was updated in May, we have one important body, which is the Industrial Forum. And the Industrial Forum is composed of different members, be it industry participation, but also, is there a problem in the sound, or is it okay?
No, we can hear you. It's fine.
Yeah, but Ulla is right. There are a lot of noise. Maybe people could be mute except Ulla because we have a lot of noise in the connection.
Okay, thank you. So it is a composition of between industry, but also NGOs, and all the member states are present in the Industrial Forum. And clusters are also having a key role there because the European Cluster Alliance is part of this Industrial Forum. So the role of this forum is to advise on the industrial strategy implementation and to contribute to the transition pathways. And the transition pathways are for the digital and green transition. And also looking into how to speed up the transition by bringing the different key players and investors together, but also to be transparent and inclusive. And just a very quick overview of the work strands of the Industrial Forum. So we have on one hand economic analysis, transition pathways, strategic dependencies, cross-border and cross-ecosystem investment needs and cooperation opportunities, as well as the uptake of advanced manufacturing processes by the EU. And so I think in all of these 5 task forces, clusters can play a major role. And the fact that the European Cluster Alliance is also curator of some of these task forces, like 2 and 4, that shows the importance of clusters. And there is also the particular way how to contribute to this, namely by being part of, with your input, at the wiki. We have a wiki for the Industrial Forum where you can all put your ideas, your comments, but of course you can also use the European Cluster Alliance to feed the process. I want very quickly to describe a bit to you the transition pathways. And the transition pathways are, as I said, part of the industrial strategy update. So the idea is to come up with an actionable plan how this green transition can work. Therefore, we need to look at bottlenecks, enablers, but also how can we monitor the mechanism, what are the investment needs, what are the funding opportunities, and also looking at the international dimension. While at the same time, we need to take into account the digital compass, the Fit for 55, from our colleagues in research and innovation, industrial technology roadmaps, the input from stakeholders, but also what we call ecosystem fissures, because we look at, through the lens of 14 industrial ecosystems at the recovery of the economy, but also as the transition pathway. So we publish staff working documents on different ecosystems. And right now, there is a staff working document of energy intensive industries in public consultation. And soon will come construction and mobility. And we know many clusters are in these fields. So I really encourage you to use this moment and look at things and see how you can contribute. And if we come now a bit more in detail, how clusters can contribute. So we have on one hand the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, ECCP, and we have the European Expert Group on Clusters. So the European Expert Group of Clusters has published 15 recommendations on how to lead the green transition, to accelerate the digital transition, and how to build resilience. And on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, we have what we call Towards the Green Transition Facility. We have capacity building webinars, a guide on capacity building for clusters, and we will publish soon a cluster panorama. And this also we do together in a policy learning event, which we are hosting next week. So there is a lot of possibility, and we see clusters as a key to help with the digital and green transition. And we want then to translate this in a policy toolkit, because we think it is very important that we have this potential, what clusters can do, that we can communicate it to policy makers, not only on a national level, equally important is a regional level. And I think there we really then want to work also all together that we can have this reach out and convince also. I mean, in some region it works particularly well, but we know there's still a huge potential where regional policymakers can understand, can learn how clusters can be used. Just a quick overview from our European Cluster Collaboration Platform. We have there 255 clusters focusing on green and 387 clusters focusing on digital. So that shows already the potential which exists, that these clusters can help and can be, let's say, catalysts for this transition. And I also would like the occasion to raise your attention to the fact that we are planning the next EU Industry Days in 2022, and we have right now 2 open calls, one for stakeholder sessions, and the EU Industry Days will take place on the 8th of February as a hybrid event here in Brussels with hopefully maximum 500 people on presence, but also online. And then from the 9th to 11th, a lot of different stakeholder sessions online. So you have the possibility to submit for stakeholder sessions until the 28th of November. But what I think is even more important, and where clusters can play a key role, until the 5th of December, we have local events open. And I think this is also the strength of the clusters. So I really would like to invite you to see and to apply for local events, what you can do in your region. And I think the topic of this seminar would fit very well for other local events you might want to present and propose. So I hope that this is interesting for you, and I invite you all to apply. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ulla. Thank you. And we've noted that your call for engagement on the part of clusters, so I hope this is well taken in terms of information. Before moving to Ulla, sorry, you have Ulla and we have Ulla, but before moving to Ulla, I just want to remind our audience that they have the possibility to ask questions. And if, please, you could do so in the tab that's called questions, not the chat, if you can avoid it. But the questions, and my colleagues will basically cover those questions as we go along in this panel, and we'll gather them all together and ask those questions after we've had our speakers' presentations. So, Ulla, if I can move on to you, to Lund, and have your perspective again from the same question as to Ulla. You know, what do you think are the role for clusters in terms of the twin transition?
Thank you, Thierry. I will try to take a little bit different angle, perhaps, and I must say I was very inspired by Ulla's talk about the cluster engagement. So let me see. Can you pull up the slide? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I wanted to zoom out a little bit and talk a little bit about what I see from my perspective of the twin transition, what is going on in Europe right now. And I will bring up 3 examples. This is the first one. A couple of weeks ago, this was announced. It's actually the last and biggest call of Horizon 2020, and this is setting the pathway for Horizon Europe, of course. The Commission now put 1 billion, over 1 billion euro on 73 projects to accelerate a just and sustainable transition. And among those approved, for example, there is a couple of projects that are addressing clean transportation, green airports, use of hydrogen instead of fossil fuel, etc. So that is one example, what is going on in Horizon right now with the transition. I also wanted to mention the Innovation Fund, the large-scale projects. I think that is very interesting that we are now seeing this big push for investment also in the large projects when it comes to the Green Deal, the twin transition. So actually 7 large projects were approved just 2 days ago. And I can mention a few highlights from the Nordics and from France. One of those projects that are part of this program is a project in Sweden that aims to entirely eliminate greenhouse gas emissions from steel production by using renewable hydrogen. That's up in the north of Sweden. Another project in Finland will demonstrate 2 ways of producing clean hydrogen at a refinery through renewable energy and capturing carbon dioxide and permanently storing it in the North Sea. So you can see this is all tied together. So if we want to remove fossil fuel from steel production, we need clean hydrogen. So I think that is a very interesting part. We see the whole picture, and we as one continent, Europe, we invest in this now. Another big source of emissions, of course, is cement production. And one of the projects here is in France, where a project is to capture the unavoidable emissions of a cement plant and store it in the North Sea, and also integrate it into the concrete itself. And the last example of these 7 I wanted to mention is a project in Sweden that will create full-scale bioenergy carbon capture and storage using existing biomass at the combined heat and power plant in Stockholm. So you can see that there is a lot of things, a lot of large projects that we as Europe, as a continent, that we now unite on. The third big program I wanted to mention here that is the Digital Europe program. The call for this big initiative for European digital innovation hubs, also called EIAC, opened as late as yesterday. And EIAC will be very, very important for the twin transition and for the new circular economy. So let me just mention one very small example from my daily work as a cluster manager. We were contacted by a small textile printing company that is not, experts in digital technologies, but they are now moving to a completely different type of production, where they use digital printing to produce textiles rather than, sourcing it from China. That is one small thing, and I think this is one small thing that is part of a larger trend. I think that for all of these initiatives, the 3 big examples that I mentioned, the role of clusters is actually crucial. And the base must be strong, organized regional clusters, as Ulla ENGELMANN just mentioned in her presentation. And I also want to bring up the importance of working with entities such as European Cluster Alliance, the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. We need to continue with the cluster labeling to ensure that we have, a quality in the cluster work. And also, I think what I mentioned, European Digital Innovations Hubs, I think clusters have a natural role as leaders, or at least as driving the EDIH. Myself, I represent Mobile Heights, and we are one example of a cluster of working in one of 256 regions in Europe, NUTS2 regions, that is. So we are one example of a tech cluster on the European playing field, and we are also driving the regional EDIH initiative here, which is called DigitHub, that you can see in the bubble to the top of the slide. I also wanted to mention Clusters of Sweden. I believe that organizing clusters on a European level needs strong support also on the national level. So I have myself and many colleagues in Sweden with me. We have been pushing strongly to form a national cluster organization, cluster association, that is, in Sweden. And we formed it earlier this year, and we are also part of the European Cluster Alliance to help in the organizing of clusters in Europe. So those are the topics that I wanted to bring up, actually. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ulla. Thank you for these insights into your work in Sweden and in Scandinavia and how it connects with the rest of Europe, obviously. So we're now going to move on to our third speaker, to Jean-Luc Bellard. So Jean-Luc, if I could have your views on this topic, how you see clusters involving in this so-called twin transition, and specifically referring to systematic and maybe largely at the AFPC level, at the national level. If you could have your views on that, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Thierry, and again, good morning to everyone. So before to talk about the cluster, I would like to really again re-emphasize the connection between the climate challenge and digital. In fact, the first challenge we have on the climate impact is really to reduce our carbon footprint, and it's really the first action. And for this, we need really, and it's critical in the cities. It's critical for the mobility. It's critical for the mix of energy. It's critical. Also, the digital component are critical for the new trends in the industry and for the implementation of new services. And fundamentally, what we need to do in this segment is to measure, react, and optimize. And it's really where there is a strong connection between the digital innovation and the climate challenges. And some people could be critical about the impact on the climate, about the digital infrastructure. But at the end of the day, personally, I think that, in fact, the contribution to the digital technology for the climate will oversize, in fact, what is done at the digital infrastructure level. And it's really a way to address some point about the energy and so on, but using digital technology are really critical regarding the challenge we have in the world for climate. Saying that, there are some points for IT. Today, IT, digital infrastructure, basically is 3% of the climate impact. So it's a low number, but we have to take care for the management. And there are also a lot of action which are done internally to the digital infrastructure to optimize this. We need to optimize the connectivity and the coverage of the digital infrastructure in order to implement new solutions to reduce the carbon footprint. And in fact, there are a lot of people are talking about the impact in terms of consumption about IoT devices, but in reality, if you look the figure for sensing, it's very low power consumption, and if we compare to the added value in terms of carbon impact, I think it's a minor point. So just to say that climate and digital are really linked to address, and it's very important to do that. In the same time, the climate challenge is a world challenge, and we need really to address at the European level for us. And Europe is really the good size for me to address research on digital infrastructure and link this research with a climate challenge, like it was illustrated by Ulla and also by Ulla for the different topics. And it's very important today. There are right now a lot of competition at the world level, and really Europe needs to manage its future with its value, which is linked to the climate, privacy, democracy, and the capability for Europe to develop new industry for the future. Saying that, and come back on the why clusters are critical in this picture, because in fact, as you know, and I said several times, we need to address innovation in this challenge. And innovation, for innovation, we have 4 critical pillars of innovation, which is the money, the entrepreneurship culture, the competencies, and the cluster. And we have this opportunity in Europe to have a lot of different clusters. We have a different map shown by Ulla, and it's really by this ability to connect the different clusters in Europe that we could be able to leverage the different competencies, the link between the different services. It's really a system approach, and the cluster culture to address this issue is very key, and it's an asset, I think, for Europe that we need to address. So few words about the French Association of the Competitive Cluster, AFPC in French, Association Française des Pôles de Compétitivité. With this association, we are strongly connected with other clusters. We are working to facilitate the interaction between European clusters. We are working also to labelize the quality of the cluster, and it was well underlined by Ulla. It's very important that we connect the good cluster with the good perimeter in order for them to work together. So it's also an action for which we are very active. So saying that, I maybe take time to focus about what is done. Sorry for that. What is done in systematic, and maybe we could go to the slide just to illustrate that what is systematic for those which are connected with not a big knowledge of systematic. So it's next slide, please. It's really a cluster in the Paris area at large, focused on the deep tech, with a large number of members, a lot of SMEs, startup, and really new companies, 600. We have all the big major group that we could have in Paris area, 150, and obviously a strong connection with academics, university, research institute, and so on. And we are also, which is, I think, very important, connected to the investor community and public sector partner, whatever the size, at the region, at the department, at the city. As you know, in French, it's very complex public organization, but we are connected with all these folks. And in fact, with this quality of ecosystem, we were able to develop really a research and development partnership on the key topics around the deep tech. I will illustrate what are the deep tech later, but in terms of throughput, since the creation of Systematic, we have labelized for more than 3 billion euro of R&D research, R&D project. And a lot of these projects are focused about digital improvement and obviously impact regarding the climate challenge. Next slide. And in fact, the role of the ecosystem is not only to do, but to think. And so we need to anticipate the matter of challenge for the economy. We need to stimulate a policy of strategic partnership in France and in Europe. It's really the topic that we are addressing today. The key point is really to federate the key players. It's why we have large diversity of members in systematic, not only a big company, but SMEs, startup, academics, and local authorities. We are strongly connected locally with a lot of different research institutes and university, and we provide the support for not only small projects, sometimes focused on one company, but also large projects at the regional and national level. And we are working strongly with locally with the region Île-de-France, but also with the national trends that we are developing in coordination with Horizon Europe. Next slide. And just to have more deep knowledge about what are the deep tech we are addressing in systematic, it's first really regarding the technology, and we are talking about data science, artificial intelligence, data mining, data analytics, everything which is very important in the future for new services. We are also very active for security, cyber security, which is a hot topics each year, and you know that in this segment, it's also a strong concern for Europe. We are also very active for digital infrastructure. When I say that, it's about 5G, 6G, IoT, cloud computing, and so on. So it's a very key element for the development of new industry and services. We are active on digital engineering. Behind this wording, digital engineering, there are a lot of activity like high performance computing, edge computing, and quantum computing for more short, mid-term, and long-term. So it's really preparing the future of the processing at large. We have also a hub regarding photonics technology. Photon is used everywhere for health, for medical, for it's the basic sensor for a lot of things, and obviously it's a key component, a key technology for digital infrastructure. We have photon fiber, optical device, so it's really an intensive technology inside systematic. We are also very active globally on the software area and specifically on open source. Open source are key component for innovation right now. Everything in the cloud is driven by the open source community. We had last week a big event in Paris called Open Source Experience, and it's very impressive to see how this community is active and innovate really for the new trends, and they are very active also regarding the climate challenge. And the last hub opened recently, it's about drone. Drone, it's a well-known technology, but what is very important is to connect this technology with other technology like artificial intelligence, photonics, digital infrastructure, etc., to develop new drone services, which are very important in the future. This is the hub where we do, and there is also a space where we think, and so where we want to prepare the future. It's why we have what we call enjeu, challenge, if you want in English, where we are looking about what are the key challenge for the digital transformation of the territory, the public driver, and the climate challenge is one of them. Digital transformation of industry and services is specifically of high importance right now in terms of to prepare the future of the industry and service in Europe. And the last part is about society. Behind society, we have health challenge, food, and so on, which are also driven by the digital transformation, but always with a view about climate impact. So it's a place where we do, a place where we think, and obviously working at the regional, but at the national level, and obviously at the European level, because what we strongly believe that for the future of our activity, the European market is a strong asset for Europe, and we need to develop on that. So it's really the motivation of systematic in the scope of on this discussion. I think that I cover my slide, Thierry, and obviously, okay, so very quickly, for the systematic action, what we are doing is at the European level, we are developing a lot of partnership with the European cluster. We have action for innovation process at the European level for the SMEs of systematic. We increase year after year the visibility at the European level for systematic, and we have inside the management of the cluster specifically KPI regarding Europe. And by the way, globally in the last years, not only in systematic but globally for the French cluster, they progress significantly in terms of coordination with the other European cluster. And like we did today, we are pushing for the promotion of the ecosystem approach, which is, I think, it's a key element for us, and also it's a key element for Europe, for our members to accelerate sales at international level. So it's the main action that we have for systematic at the European level. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jean-Luc. Thank you. So let's now open our discussion. And once again, please remember to ask your questions in the questions section on Livestorm. We have 20 minutes basically for that, so that should be plenty of time, hopefully. But before maybe our audience can think of some questions, I have some myself, if I may put them to you. I read actually in the paper that Ulla mentioned from the experts, so I think it's from that one, that they refer to clusters as catalysts, and I think Jean-Luc used that term also in his presentation, in his speech. Catalysts for green and digital transition. I presume you agree with that statement, but what does that actually imply in your view? What would you say are why are they catalysts and how can they do that? Maybe Ulla, if I can start with you, if you have some comments on that.
Yeah, thank you. It is really that the role of the cluster, because as a catalyst, you have to enhance the activities, meaning you have to be able to connect, and that is because clusters have to reach out to others, particularly SMEs, but also the link clusters are having with the research community. This is something which can help and foster this transition. And as also presented by Ulla, who referred to the different programs, because we know, I mean, particularly on Horizon Europe project, that it is not easy. It is a very competitive environment. And if SMEs themselves will try to go for this kind of project, that might be very cumbersome. If you are organized in a cluster and the cluster building up the experience to be part of this competitive projects, then you can enhance, let's say, your chances to be part of this project. So I think the clusters bringing together the knowledge and the experience in this highly competitive field, but also I see clusters as scouting for opportunities. And the scouting for opportunities, on one hand, via Horizon, but we should also not forget that a lot of money is in the regional funds. And it is also linked directly to innovation. It is less competitive, let's be honest about this. So I think it is also for the cluster to be aware, to look at the different funding opportunities. And I think what is particularly important now, on a national level, with the RRF money, which you have now, the resilience and recovery money, a lot of national calls will also come out. So I think also there, it's a role of the clusters to look at these opportunities and act as catalysts.
Thank you, Ulla. Thank you. Ulla, can I ask you the same questions? What do you understand by catalysts from your perspective?
Yeah, I think Ulla made a very good summary of what clusters, how we act as catalysts, and in particular, I want to bring up also the cross-sector knowledge sharing where we as clusters can be instrumental. And with that I mean that we need to connect the knowledge in the different industries, and we need to do that in collaboration with clusters that are in the other industries. And for me, that means, for instance, that we work with the other regional cluster organizations, for instance, within the energy sector, in order to bring the maximum, leverage from the energy cluster and the tech cluster. And then the other aspect that Ulla mentioned that I also want to really push for is that, and it's obvious for everybody that is working with clusters, that we do not only represent industry, but we also work in the triple helix context. So we work with the academy, and we work with the public parts of the society as well. And we must not forget that, how important we are as catalysts in bringing the whole society together, and not only the industry. And on regional level, yes, the regional funding is very important for us to be involved in. I can just mention one example that we are involved in right now, which is getting AI acceleration among SMEs not in the tech industry primarily, but actually the other industries that are part of our specialization here in our region. So that particular project, which is part of React EU, is to help the small companies to accelerate their AI transformation. So those are a few different things that are spinning in my mind when it comes to clusters as catalysts.
Thank you, Ulla. Yes, very relevant to give these concrete examples of what catalysts mean. Jean-Luc, from your perspective, since you have the view systematic, but also in France and largely in Europe, what would you describe this catalyst role? What would that mean from your point of view?
For me, I'm using the chemical definition for the catalyst is really to accelerate, and globally, I think that it's something that we have to address critically in Europe. We see the transformation, we see the challenge, and maybe if I compare to other places in the world where innovation is very active, in some area, the transformation are very quick. The way we address innovation are very quick, and in Europe, it's where we need really to be more active, to accelerate. And it's why I think that connecting people, and also, even it's not easy, we have some policy at the regional level and at the national level. It's important to connect what is done regionally with the national trends and the European trends. And these different tools need to be connected together. And it's, I think, the philosophy of the DG Growth that they want really to have, and it was also underlined by the Commissaire Breton about industry cluster. It's really not to have different policy, but to have what is needed for Europe, which is in fact aligned with the national strategy and the regional strategy. I don't say it's easy, but it's really the way really to accelerate innovation. The challenge today is not only to connect the skills, the competencies, not only to leverage the cluster, but really to accelerate the way we transform ideas into the in the market. And for this, we have a huge market, which is a European market, and we need really to address this for the European market first. And it's not like in US or in China where the size of the market are big enough to accelerate the transformation. So it's what in the past in Europe we have a lot of some of different markets, and we need really to transform Europe as a common market, really to accelerate the innovation and to use the catalyst as a really a way to address this at the European level. I think it's a key challenge for us. If not, we will use industry or service solution coming from other parts of the world.
Point well taken, Jean-Luc. Yes. So catalyst meaning acceleration, as far as you're concerned. This is really the thing to remember. Before I jump to another question, I'm looking at the questions that have been asked for the audience. I guess this one is probably for you, Ulla. I presume this is for you as a representative of the European Commission. Somebody is asking if there is any new program to share with the startups. So I presume it's referring to the EIC. I don't know if there is anything that beyond that is relevant within the European Commission as far as the topic of our panel is today.
Yeah, as you quite rightly said, the EIC, which is a quite new element and is part of the Horizon Europe, is there for startups, but also to give the possibility to scale up, because this is one of the issues which we are having in Europe. And then there are other, let's say, smaller funds which are looking into, but right now in the Commission we are also looking into how on the startup question we can bring different initiatives together, because one thing which was also said, we need to find ways how to combine initiatives, and but also as I said before, other funds which are there which you might not necessarily think that this is the one to address, but the regional funds can be also used for startups. So it's not only because the EIC has it in its title that you can use the EIC, but other funds like the regional funds where you have the innovation dimension can be used also for startups.
Yes, that's it. It's you very rightly point out that sometimes funding actually is available at your doorstep. By regional fund, you mean the European Regional Development Fund, the European Social Fund, which, by the way, are actually managed by local regional authorities, in that case by the Région Île-de-France, before moving to the European Innovation Council, which are very competitive. So sometimes the competition is lesser at regional level, if I'm not mistaken, even if applying for funding is always obviously something that you have to work on. But yeah, your doorstep is first look at the doorstep before looking beyond that. That's another interesting question, I think, which I think is for you, Jean-Luc, by the way. How do you see cooperation with US or Asian actors to accelerate innovation in Europe and better address the European common market? That's an interesting one.
It's in fact innovation is everywhere. In fact, and I think what is important in innovation is and in the commerce at large is a fair process. And I think that there is no fundamental problem to collaborate with other continents, in US, in China, if in some way there is a fair exchange. And for example, for some topics, we don't have the same open market in other continents. So when we will have the same approach in terms of when we share the same value, I think it's a very good way to address. And it's we did already. Right now there is a sort of tension between, because in fact it's there is a sort of monopoly in some area which is not the value we have in Europe. So I think the value in Europe are really clear, visible. We have a lot of respect about the privacy, the democracy, and when we share this value, we could really work with others and have the same freedom on the market that we have in Europe. And in this case, I don't see a problem for collaboration between the different continents, and I think but it's critical that there is we share the same value. I think it's what we want to do in Europe. I don't know, maybe Ulla, you have some comment about this, because I'm not talking for the European Commission. It's only my view.
Yes, go ahead, Ulla. And Ulla, of course, if you want to also comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, if I can jump in here, you know, if you look at it high level, EU actually has recent free trade agreements with Japan, South Korea, Canada, for instance, that we have put in place only the last couple of years. And from my perspective, my personal feeling about that is that we should build on those relations that we have built with other countries that at least partly, you know, buy into the values and the way of doing business that we do here in Europe. So why not you know, push for those markets where we already have the political infrastructure in place? We already have you know, the high level support on a policy level. That would be my take on that.
Yeah, and I can come in very briefly. Fully agree with what was said before, and also the fact when we have free trade agreements, what we also try on a very practical level, we try to accompany the free trade agreements and with cluster agreements. And we have particularly set up with Canada, with South Korea, that we have this cluster to cluster cooperation. So not only on a, let's say, a business level, but also in order to have contact with the administration, with the government. So, of course, we had now been, due to the pandemic, we didn't have so much making events and follow-up actions. But for 22, we are planning, particularly with Canada and South Korea, to have a follow-up. And we had done with Singapore, because we also had an agreement with Singapore, and we have done a matchmaking very recently with Singapore. So we are also supporting this and with very concrete measures for clusters.
Thank you, Ulla. Thank you very much. And by the way, I remember that we actually met during an event of that kind a few years ago with Canada, when you signed this agreement with the Canadian authorities. I don't see any actual answers, actual questions right now. But I was actually listening to you and this notion of catalyst and mentioning the cooperation at international level. Would you agree that in order for clusters to cooperate, in particular with Canada and all the countries with which the Union has free trade agreement, that it would actually call for cooperation between European clusters? So not go individually as a French cluster, but go collectively as a coalition of European clusters. Is that realistic? Do you think it can work? Ulla, I know that it's something that you are very keen upon, but if you could just explain why that is important.
Yeah, it is important because it gives you, it will be a door opener. Because if you go to another country, if you go to Canada, and you come as, let's say, a French cluster, that of course you might get your door open. But if you come as a whole group of European clusters, the leverage is different. You have a different weight. And then that opens you much more doors with the government, but also with other entities. So if you are together, you are stronger. You have this European dimension, and you have this reach out. So I think use it, because we can prove from the contacts from the European cluster collaboration partnerships for international, the experience, the direct feedback we get from the colleagues is that it works, that you get the access to other markets also. And so I can only encourage you to work together and go together to these partnerships. I will also have to excuse myself because at 11 o'clock I have to be in Baden-Württemberg for the next meeting. So that's a disadvantage of these online meetings. You are expected to be put spot on in the next meeting. Sorry for that.
No worries, Ulla. You are excused, and if you have to go, don't worry. Thanks, by the way, for joining today. We're very grateful. We have a couple of minutes just precisely on this point. I could see, Ulla, you were agreeing about on this thing about what we call European intercluster in order to approach outside markets in Europe. Do you have particular examples or things you think about?
I couldn't agree more with Ulla on this point. I think we need to collaborate more, and that's how we gain strength. And I mean, if you take it on the micro level, so to speak, on the regional level, it starts there. We have to collaborate on regional level, and then we have to expand that to zoom out and also do it on European level. And I think for many of the international counterparts, they view Europe as one entity. They don't they don't see 27 different member countries. They see Europe, and we have to act accordingly as well, and present ourselves as Europe when we are in these discussions. That's my view.
Thank you, Ulla. Jean-Luc, what is your take on that?
No, I don't have a lot of things to add. I fully agree with Ulla and Ulla. To have a collective approach as a European cluster is obviously very powerful, and we need to leverage that. It's maybe sometimes complex in terms of organization because it's a long time, but specifically when we are talking with big countries like Canada, South Korea, and other parts in the world, make a lot of sense to do it collectively. And this reinforces what I said at the beginning of my talk, that the need really to leverage the European dimension. I think it's for all the topics we are addressing today, all the future industry and services, the real size for the development, at least for the cluster, is the European size. And it's even there are a lot of initiatives in the different countries. They need really to talk as European citizen and to address the European market. It's really where the place is, really where the future is for all these companies. And talking as a European Cluster Association with others make a lot of sense.
Thank you very much, Jean-Luc. Yeah, so before we part, before I say goodbye to you, temporarily, of course, just a quick word of conclusion. What I basically take on this is that it's all a question of building blocks. The catalyst happens at regional level or local level, as the Commission would say. It happens at European level, and it can happen at international level. And incidentally, it will be a good transition for the next panel, because we'll have a good example of that with one of the so-called COSME intercluster projects. So anyway, I thank you very much, Ulla. I know she's gone already, but Ulla and Jean-Luc, for your participation, very much appreciated. We'll keep in touch to work on this catalyzation, this acceleration, as Jean-Luc says. And we're going to be moving to the second panel and welcome our next three panelists. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're jumping in to our second panel, and hopefully to our next three panelists. I can see them coming in. Good morning to you. Welcome. As I did with the first panel, I will ask you to introduce yourself to the audience before we actually go into the heart of the matter. If I could ask you, Angelika, if you could introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, gladly. Thank you, Thierry, and also hello from my side to everybody. So just a few words about me. My name is Angelika MURR, and since 2018, I'm project manager for internationalization at Optence Photonics Hub, and we are a cluster for optical technologies and photonics in Germany. And what we do is that we offer the full range of cluster services like the networking, training, and events and technology transfer. And I will tell a bit more about us in a few minutes when we speak about the LaserGo project.
Thank you, Angelika. Thank you. If I could move to you, Rubén, for ISOTROL. You're actually in Sevilla, I believe. A nice city.
Yes, it is indeed. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I'm Rubén González, and I work as a project manager for research and development projects at ISOTROL SA. ISOTROL is a company focused mostly on the development of tools for the management of energy assets and to provide solutions to the energy sectors regarding trading and grid integration of storage and power production. And we work, we're able to manage up to 64 gigawatts of installed capacity at the moment. We have presence worldwide and have offices all around the world and presence, as I said, in all of the countries. So in a while, I will talk more in detail about all of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rubén. Alexis, if I could move on to you to briefly introduce yourself to our audience.
Of course. Good morning, Thierry. Good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to participate to the conference today. So I'm Alexis BEROLATTI, co-founder and chief operation officer of BC Diploma. We are a French-based company. We built the company 4 years ago, and we developed a blockchain-based certification service. Our main industry is the academic sector. And we are deeply involved in European projects. So I will talk about that during my talk. And we are growing fast today with a really interesting project. So thanks a lot for the invitation.
You're very welcome, Alexis. Thank you very much. So after this brief round of introduction, I'm going to go back to Angelika. The idea obviously of this panel was really to focus on specific projects and to understand from your perspective as practitioners what are the benefits. So Angelika, you're going to be talking about this Laser Go project. It's an intercluster. So the floor is yours for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And by the way, just before you start, just remind the audience that they can ask questions in the tab questions of Livestorm. Don't hesitate, and I will relay them to you afterwards. Floor is yours, Angelika.
Thank you. And it was also really good to hear the importance of clusters emphasized in the first roundtable. And I'm very happy to give another example, so to say, of how clusters can support the ecosystem and talk about our participation in one of the COSME Go international projects, which was funded by the European Commission. And this is the Laser Go project. But before, I would like to start, as I already said before, with some additional words about who we are. So to give you also a bit of a better understanding and background about the expectations and the goals we had when we decided to participate in this project. Optence, our cluster network, was founded in 2001 as one of the German competence networks for optical technologies. And in January 2019, the LLC Photonics Hub was established, which acts nowadays as the cluster management organization for Optence and is also a service provider for the whole photonics community, so that we focus on strengthening the photonics in nearly all kinds of application and technology approaches. To give you a bit of a geographic frame, our regional focus is in Hesse, Rhineland-Palatinate, and North Rhine-Westphalia, so you could say a bit in the middle west of Germany. And today our network represents over 100 members from industry and academia with a strong focus on the SMEs. So they are also some of our key players that we would like to support and strengthen in their pursuit to expand their business ranges. And the range of expertise among our members is quite broad and diverse, so to say. But however, if we want to put a label on it, the main focus area would be optical manufacturing, and optical manufacturing in all its aspects, and also for a wide range of applications. And one of these applications was also the focus of the project I want to talk about, the Laser Go global project within the Cluster Go International call of Horizon 2020. And this call, the Cluster Go International, had the officially stated mission, so to say, to support clusters from Europe to work together and to look for trade and investment opportunities and cooperation partners in third markets, which translates to markets outside of Europe. And this especially for the benefits of their members and the small and medium-sized enterprises. So also here the focus on SMEs, like a bit comparable to our cluster. LaserGo was part of the second generation and ran from January 2018 to June 2019, so already completed. And the approach was cross-sectoral and brought together the photonics ecosystem and the healthcare ecosystem. From the technology side, the main focus was on, like the name of the project maybe already gave a hint on laser technologies and its applications in the healthcare and medtech sector. So for example, for treatment purposes, surgical use or diagnosis, etc. And just to emphasize it again, the aim was really to create collaboration and opportunities for SMEs internationally. The clusters helped with the internationalization, and they, so to say, I mean, paved the way to the business outside Europe. And we already had the word door opener mentioned several times, and that is actually exactly what this project's targeted. And we focused on the countries Australia, Canada, Israel, Japan, New Zealand, Korea, Singapore, and the USA. And we were 6 clusters involved from 5 countries. 3 of the clusters had, and to say still have, the focus on photonics and optics, and 3 in the medtech sector. And this was really a good mixture to reach the project goals. And the overall goal, the international cooperation, just to say it again, was quite clear and very ambitious in itself. And so the question was how to reach it. You could say that there were like 3 different phases or tracks in the project. Number 1 was the consortium researched and collected information on relevant topics, and relevant in this case means value chain mapping, translation, have a look at the key players, interlinks and distributors on the target markets, have a closer look at the market needs and requirements, and analyze the competences of the cluster actors or members to provide concise portraits of them to potential partners. For example, it was to present our so-called innovation champions from each cluster, which were introduced in a brochure to the potential partners in the target markets. So one too fast, because so the goal in this first track was to be informative so that the actors could gain the high-level industry-specific information, the insights on market entry requirements, and information on value chain networks. Second phase or track was the present on-site in the target countries, and that was done by missions. The actual procedure, of course, differed a bit by country due to the specific needs, but in general, there were pre-mission and missions. Pre-missions were mostly done on the cluster level and intended to, so to say, explore the grounds. And you can do a lot by phone and email and video chat. We all have learned this in the last year quite extensively, I would say. But to build a basis of trust, is, I would say, rather mandatory to meet the people and talk to each other directly and look each other into the eyes and to show your commitment to build something trustworthy and lasting. And this is, I mean, a bit strange to tell this into a webcam, but I guess you know what I mean with that. However, the pre-missions were basically a kind of screening and sorting process, followed by the actual trade missions, where although the SMEs were invited to join for B2B meetings and C2C meetings, which in this context stand for cluster-to-cluster meetings. So meet in the larger networks, as already well said before, to create this kind of critical mass. But the company involvement was also one of the main challenges, but this will be highlighted in the slide after the next. So I'm just clicking a bit too fast here. So to say that the second goal was be collaborative by initiating the context, finding joint business cases, and establishing the collaboration opportunities. And the third phase, so to say, was to ensure the long-term exploitation of the project goals. MOUs, memorandums of understanding, were signed with the international partners, and it was an important aspect that the competences for the signing partners, that there were not like two sets of competitors on the one side, or but on the other side also that there was enough overlap and interfacing so that the SMEs involved could pursue the common interest and business goals. In other words, for us to find the complementary partners to form a strong relation. And to have a lasting effect, the goal of this third track was to be sustainable, create the visibility and be kept in mind with the target region with our newfound partners. To sign business agreements for future interactions can be based on, and so to say, sow the seed for the long-term collaborations. And spoiler, we could generate to a larger or smaller extent all of those benefits we hoped to offer our members. But yeah, it wasn't that easy and smooth as it may sound on this one slide. And the answer is not surprisingly, no, it wasn't. One challenge that I already briefly touched upon was the engagement of the companies on site. I mean, it was never a question whether the SMEs were interested in this internationalization. This is also part of our cluster strategy and is aligned with our members' needs. So the interest and the wish to do this was definitely there. But it was rather the question how to put it in a practical way. There was no budget foreseen in the course that could be allocated to the cluster actors, to our members. So every travel or participation had to be covered by the companies themselves. And as you remember, there were countries like Korea or Singapore or Australia, which would mean a considerable amount of resources for time-wise, money-wise to go there. And that's why we always try to combine the actual mission with another event on-site, like a trade show or conference or some other industry-specific key event that could give added value and yeah, make a bit of a compensation for the expenses. However, that gave a more rigid frame to the project schedule, as we have to do the planning very carefully, when to be where and how to align all the dates and travel requirements. So second challenge was to balance the quantity and the quality of the collaborations and the agreements, because the number of agreements was one essential key performance indicator that was required within the call. But however, on the level of cluster collaboration, so to say, more is not always better. And also for the members, they are looking for high quality and committed contacts with a real interest to go for long-term business relations on both sides and not, how to say it, another speed dating with some travel attached. So, of course, if you do all this travel, you want to get the most out of your time. But this means that not just you need many meetings, but also very valuable meetings. And this is where the pre-missions could support to analyze the potential. And in the end, we definitely always favored quality over quantity, which might look less on paper, but yeah, if a trustful cooperation exists, there will be continuous generating of opportunities and not just, let's call it the one-hit wonders for one-time meet and no further interaction, but the sustainable business relationships could be formed. So, and the third challenge I would like to mention is the initiation of the contacts in the first place. Cluster to cluster sometimes tends to be easier because fostering contacts and looking for collaborations is what we do. And there's always a quite a very open and collaborative atmosphere. However, this construct of this organized, more informal and diverse clusters is not known and common everywhere, and especially in Asia. Example, there's much more ongoing on the governmental regional level and not on the kind of cluster level like we know is here in Europe. So the challenge was to find the right contact points, be it regional authorities, associations, or research institutes. And generally speaking, it was more efficient if you have someone who could act as a door opener and kind of vouchers for you with the partners in your target countries. So we tried to source the local knowledge by working with representatives in Europe, like for example, JETRO in Japan or CAPIT in Korea, or talk with members from our clusters who have representation on site. So it's mostly about finding relations on a personal level and the right contact. And this leads over to the questions, which are the benefits and advantages for the companies to be involved in such a cluster project. The clusters involved in the LaserGo project represented over 1,600 companies and 100 research institutes, which is in itself a vast pool of knowledge and competence. It forms already a strong European or part European network. And in this network, the clusters can act as a single point of contact to the international partners and provide the competent support on site. And the SMEs are not left on their own and they don't have to struggle with initiating the interactions on site. And although the background research on the international regional ecosystems and the key players is done by the clusters, so that the SMEs had a kind of pre-screening, which guarantees a higher level of commitment and collaboration interests. As you have with the clusters, you have a kind of so to say neutral intermediary who has a close look that all sides can gain value. And thus the project partners, the clusters, in this case, the project partners connected the relevant parties and initiated this long-term contacts, which was one of the main targets to create contacts and visibility for the SMEs that could and should lead to sustainable long-term collaborations and business opportunities, and also on the other side, create at the same time the long-term collaborations on cluster level, which can then be further exploited for all other members in our networks. And with this, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present LaserGo here in this event.
Thank you very much, Angelika. Effectively, that was very useful to see in depth what it means when you do interclustering in a European project to approach, in this case, international markets. If I can then now move to Rubén in Spain. You are involved in a project called RIMA, and I presume you're going to explain a bit more what RIMA is, and you have a very concrete experience with this project. So the floor is yours for 10 minutes, Rubén. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thierry. So first of all, thank you for having me, and I'm going to present the main results and our experience participating in RIMA as a whole project. Yeah, first of all, expanding what we have already told about ISOTROL before, I just want to remark some of our key figures and key, let's say, competences at what we do. We have three main pillars as a company, which are renewable energies, trading, and grid integration of storage and distributed energy generation systems. And we focus on the mostly on the management, control, and supervision of assets and the optimization of the use of energy. As for our main product, it is called Optence, and it is a tool for managing and supervising energy assets in utility level PV and wind power generation plants. At the time, we manage and supervise up to 56 gigawatts of installed power. And we work with clients of all kind of natures. For most of the time, we have worked with utility clients such as EDP or Enel, but most recently, more investment funds have been getting involved into the energy and renewable energy sector, and we are start working with them as well. Just to give you some key figures of the company, we are near 400 employees at the time, and our annual turnover this last year was higher than 15 million euros. So after presenting this, I would like to briefly explain what RIMA is, since it was the main project that allowed us to participate in Drone for PV and to be involved into this research project that we are going to present. So RIMA is like a macro project, a focus on robotics for maintenance and inspections. It's a large project which spans for up to 4 years, and it has a really ambitious ideas on what to do, since they want to close the gap existing between all of the actors which are involved into the development of maintenance and robotics applications for the inspections. So it has three main pillars, which are funding, network, and training. For funding, they support companies to develop projects and experiments to allow the creation of new tools and the validation of ideas which have yet some room to expand and to get closer to the market. It has regarding network, it is a great tool to not only getting yourself to be known as an actor into this kind of activities, but to meet some other companies and potential partners to develop new tools in the future and to work on to future commercial agreements. And finally, training, they also focus on preparing actors, people in the sector to be more prepared and more capable of performing that activities. Not only that, but they also provide guidance on how to develop the projects that they fund and how to best accomplish their expected results that have been proposed for them. So, as I said, RIMA is like a macro project, and Drone for PV is one of the experiments that were funded by RIMA. We had one initial motivation, and it was that at the time, it is difficult to identify problems at a PV panel level. This is sensoring is impossible to be installed in all of the modules. For this reason, the sensors are usually installed to groups of panels and modules, which are called strings, or even to power electronic components named inverters, which are responsible of converting the power from different modules into a flow of alternative current. So since those problems cannot be identified using sensors, it is common to perform aerial inspections using drones to detect these problems, either by photographs or thermographic images. The problem is that this is not an easy process. This requires, first of all, to contact a company or a pilot which has to perform the flights. Once those flights have been performed, a report has to be generated. Those images has to be analyze most of the time visually in order to identify which modules are faulty, where they are located, and what kind of failure they have. This has a high cost and make it really difficult for companies to realize those flights regularly. For this problem, failures are not corrected when they happen, and they stay on the modules for a long time, and power production is reduced. So what our idea was to try to automatize all of this process, creating an automated process capable of performing flights, analyzing images, and allowing all of this process to be done automatically when machine learning algorithms detected problems into the sensors in the groups of panels. So once we identified that idea that we have, we heard about RIMA, and they had an open call at the time. So we were able to prepare a proposal or this project and these initial thoughts that we have on how to improve the current maintenance inspections that were performed over PV plants. So we prepared that proposal. That proposal, after a process, was selected for that as a competent project. And then we were contacted by some mentors that helped us in ISOTROL to prepare a more detailed plan on the activities that should take place and what to look for, and even what kind of business KPIs to look for and how to focus our results from the later market perspective. The thing is that it was impossible for us to take this kind, to invest into these kinds of activities, because they have a huge research and development component, and we weren't be able to get the funding using company private funds. So this kind of initiatives really helped us to get what we needed to perform these kinds of activity and to move forward and create a solution. So our starting point was SCADA data analysis. As I said, we had all of this sensoring at a group of modules level, and we were able to develop new machine learning algorithms to detect patterns out of normality that could indicate that problems are taking place into different modules. Those algorithms were improved, and they were integrated with new systems capable of identifying where those panels were located and to send orders to the drone to automatically take off, fly over the faulty area, take images, and upload them into a new machine learning algorithm based on deep learning that was able to identify where the panel in the images was located, which kind of fault it had, and to create a report over a map. As you can see on the right, actually it's not really clear, but this is just a Google image, a Google map image in which the different faulty modules are highlighted. And finally, to generate a set of recommendations on when to replace different faulty modules or components of those modules when economically it will be optimal. This is when a set number of problems were accumulated and the power production was below a specified threshold in which the maintenance of the modules will be beneficial and not economically costly. And that will be most of it. Just to finish it up, I would like to highlight some of the main benefits that we have experienced from RIMA. First of all, funding. We had a funding for 100% of the human resources and materials that were needed to prepare this experiment and to conduct it. We were even able, as you can see, to perform piloting over real PV plants thanks to this funding. Secondly, the mentoring. We were contacted constantly by 2 mentors that we were assigned with, and they were always monitoring our progress and telling us which kind of approach were recommendable, when which have some kind of blockade, or maybe even when we were inspecting and change, they will propose new ways to approach the problem development, as well as I said before, to think about the possible business models that we should consider in the future when the project will have been finished. And finally, networking. We were able to contact during the execution of the project with several companies, not only from RIMA, which were most of them, but even from external agents that came to us after we start posting what we have been doing and our progresses with this Drone for PP project. And at the time, we're still talking with them and seeing future opportunities, not only for new research and development activities and projects, but to think about commercial activities in which we could collaborate to create a business model which is viable for the performance of these automatic inspections. And that will be everything from my side. Here you have my contact information, so please feel free to contact me for any doubt or anything that you might be interested with. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rubén. Very, very clear, very specific, very detailed presentation. Thank you very much for that. Before I move on to Alexis, just remind our audience, please do ask questions. We'll have some times. We'll have about hopefully 20 minutes for that. So don't hesitate to do it. Our third and final speaker is Alexis BEROLATTI from BC Diploma. Alexis, you're going to talk to us about BC Diploma, obviously, and your experience with the BHUB project. So the floor is yours for 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Thierry. Good morning again, everybody. So I'm happy to participate to this roundtable today. I will briefly introduce BC Diploma solution, what we built, and after, of course, talking about the interaction with BHUB for Europe and other European projects. So BC Diploma, we are a French-based company. We are 3 co-founders at the origin of the project. We had the idea to build BC Diploma back in 2017 to answer existing problematics in the academic sector. We all 3 come from higher education sector, and we identified at this moment the lack of a satisfying solution for institutions, allowing them to issue easily secured and sustainable certificates. Why that? Because we are facing the explosion of fake diplomas and fake information on resumes and CV. This is really annoying in the HR industry, but also for the institutions who issue credentials. So this was the first problematic. Maybe you know that the academic industry is a competitive industry. So institutions, colleges, universities need to innovate and to bring additional services to their students to stay and to stay competitive. And they have also, of course, to accelerate their digital transformation. So we built BC Diploma, an easy-to-use solution that can allow any institution to build any kind of document template, digital document template, and to issue credentials that will be stored on the blockchain. So we have a unique technical approach because we encrypt the digital certificates data to make them totally anonymous on a legal aspect, and we put this encrypted data on the blockchain. So it brings a lot of benefits in terms of security, because the data will become totally tamper-proof and unforgeable. It won't be possible to falsify the digital credential over the time, and it becomes also very sustainable thanks to the decentralization of the blockchain. So thanks to this innovative solution, the school will innovate, and the school will also save cost and money, so that they will receive less and less verification requests from employers who are evaluating candidates. So we believe it's an interesting solution both for issuing institutions, but also for end users, the digital credential owners. So the result of a BC Diploma digital credential is just a URL, just a link. So it's really convenient for the student to share the link on his LinkedIn profile, on his resume, to give access in a single click to the certified attestation that contains all the proofs of authenticity. Of course, we worked hard on the user experience to build an easy-to-use solution for end users. So you have a few keywords here. We built a multilingual solution, so you can edit a digital credential in as many languages as you want. So that's important for the mobility of the student. Of course, the digital credentials will be totally responsive design. And you can natively integrate your digital credentials on your LinkedIn profile, on your Open Badges portfolio or backpack. So the user experience is really convenient for credentials owners, for people that will consult the attestation that once again contains all the proofs of authenticity. We are totally transparent and we give access to the information that has been stored on the blockchain on each certificate. So this is, in few words, our solution. Institutions can issue digital credentials easily. They send the credential links to the students, and after the students can share their links to give access to the certified information. So maybe I will talk now about European projects. So you have to know that we are deeply involved in different European projects. And I could talk more in detail about 3 of them: EPSI project, NGI, ECFLAB, and GaiaX. So regarding the first project, EPSI stands for European Blockchain Services Infrastructure. Since 2018, 29 countries and the European Commission have joined forces to form the European Blockchain Partnership to build a European blockchain services infrastructure. The vision is to leverage blockchain to the creation of cross-border services for public administrations and their ecosystems to verify information and make services trustworthy. Since 2020, EPSI is deploying a network of distributed blockchain nodes across Europe, supporting applications focused on selected use cases. Among them, we have BC Diploma. And EPSI is the first European-wide blockchain infrastructure driven by the public sector in full respect of the European values and regulations. So in EPSI project, we've been selected to be their partner for their academic use case to generate digital credential in the academic sector. So this is a long-term project, but we are really happy to be involved in this one. The second one, NGI ECFLAB project, is a different project. So a few words about ECFLAB. It's a project funded by the European Commission and that aims to advance the broad uptake of SSI as a next generation open and trusted digital identity solutions for faster and safer electronic transactions via the internet as well as in real life. In this project, 5.6 million euros funds will be made available to European innovators, including academic research groups, SMEs, and startups that want to build or improve self-sovereign identity components. The aim of the ECFLAB is to create a range of interoperable open source SSI components that will be used within the Europe and possibly worldwide. So this is another important project for BC Diploma because, of course, the self-sovereign identity is a hot topic today. So this is an important part of our technical roadmap, and we are really happy to participate in this European project because we need to set up European standards in this sector. The last project, GaiaX. GaiaX is a common European project. It brings people from different companies, research institutions, associations, administrations, and politics together to work towards a common goal. GaiaX is a project initiated by Europe for Europe and beyond. Representatives from business, politics, and science from Europe and around the globe are working together hand in hand to create a federated and secure data infrastructure. Companies and citizens will collate and share data in such a way that they keep control over them. they should decide what happens to their data, where it is stored, and always retain data sovereignty. So, of course, this is also an important topic. We need to move forward to build a European data infrastructure in which we can control data. This is also an important piece of BC Diploma framework, the data storage. So we are really happy with our technical approach. Once again, we patented our encryption algorithm to store anonymous data on the blockchain. This is quite a unique technical approach. So that was just 3 projects to give you an overview of our participation to European project, because Europe is an important market for us. We are a worldwide company. As you can see, we work in more than 18 countries. But of course, Europe is an important market, and it's an important ecosystem to work together. My last slide is dedicated to BHub for Europe, of course. So BHub for Europe is a Startup Europe supported project dedicated to connect blockchain innovation ecosystems. The idea is that BHub for Europe contributes to blockchain development by leveraging European technological excellence and supporting the growth of business integrating blockchain like BC Diploma. So we are happy to participate and to be involved in this project because, of course, we can meet a lot of different actors in blockchain ecosystem across Europe. We get connections with potential users of our solution. So on a business development side, this is also an accelerator for us. We benefit personal support with different workshops and one-to-one sessions, so we can address specific pain points we can face in Europe, and we still have a lot of pain points because the blockchain can be considered still as an emerging technology. So we consider ourselves as a pioneers. So it's really challenging but exciting to move forward and to solve new issues on different aspects for our activity. So that's it. Thanks a lot for your attention. It was a quick presentation, but I hope we could continue the discussion during the Q&A session. So thanks again, everybody, and thank you, Thierry.
Thank you very much, Alexis. We have effectively 15 minutes left to have a quick discussion on the different presentations. Obviously, 3 different examples, cluster approach, a larger SME approach, almost like a large group, even though you're not quite a large group at ISOTROL, and the perspective of a startup, if I can call a blockchain a startup. If you agree with me, Alexis, maybe you are on the way to being a big SME, but you are probably more a startup than an SME itself. So 3 different perspectives. So obviously, you all have useful and worthwhile experience. That said, what would you say, what would you recommend to your peers if they are interested in participating in this kind of EU-funded project? If I can start with you, Angelika, what would you say, what are your advice for SMEs in particular when engaging in this kind of project?
So in this case, we would definitely recommend to them to do it, and also say have a look out for the right topic-focused program, and make sure to work with dedicated partners, because it's really important to do a lot of put also the preparation and the follow-up work into the projects, and not consider it as a limited frame of time where you focus on it, but also to always have in mind the long-term exploitation and the further networks, so that all what you could gain in the project and all what you learned and all the connections you could make, that they could spread and grow and keep on enhancing the networks. So really focus on topic that aligns with your strategy and work with partners who are as committed to the causes you are.
So a long-term perspective, using the project as a springboard, as it were. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Rubén, you mentioned RIMA. Obviously, you were able to apply to the open call. You were selected and funded. I don't know if you mentioned how much funding did you get for your experimentation.
Yeah, we got 600% of all that which was requested, which was for us it was 60k euros, and other 40k euros, which was for a company which worked with us in the development of the drone and their related tools. So
in total, 100,000 euros split between your company ISOTROL and the actual drone company you work with. Huh? What was the name of the other company you were working with?
Yeah, it was Drone Tools.
Drone Tools, okay.
Another civilian company, which I'm going to...
Another civilian company. One thing that you touched upon, you mentioned about the mentoring that you received during the course of the project. Since we are involved as systematic in the project, not in yours, in the particular open call you had with, but you mentioned that the mentors were very useful. Their contribution was very important. I guess the mentors were actually drawn from the actual European network. So from which countries were those mentors from, and what were the benefits, concrete benefits you got from their involvement?
Yeah, actually, our two mentors, which were one of them was from Germany, and the other one from I don't know if Greece or Macedonia. I would say it was.
I think it was Greece, probably Greece. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was actually really helpful because, as I said, this was we are not experts in drones. We are an energy company, and since they were experts in the for the maintenance and all the robotics aspects of the project, they were really helpful while providing us the best approaches to some problems that we had issues with. Mm-hmm. One example of that is a simple question about the real precision of GPS while on drones, the deviations to take into account from where the GPS antenna is installed on the drone and the real position of the center of the drone, and all of those aspects which were really helpful to identify where the modules, the PV modules were in the images. So they were really, really helpful.
Okay, so basically expertise, you got expertise on particular areas which you were not necessarily familiar with as a company, and that brought you some interesting advice. Okay,
absolutely.
That's great, thank you. Alexis, you mentioned that you are involved in a lot of European projects and initiatives, apart from BEYLAT for Europe. Was it something that, as a company, you set out to do at the outset? Was it part, in other words, of your roadmap as a company, or was it something that came up gradually? Or in other words, did you realize that your level playing field, your market, by definition, by construction, had to be European, if not global, obviously?
Well, I would say that indeed our participation to the different projects I mentioned arise by opportunity because we are still a young company. The digital credential space is a new sector, but it's really an accelerated and moving fast sector. So standards are emerging step by step. And typically, our participation to NGI ESIF Lab is really a great thing because we are assisting to the emergence of the self-sovereign identity. How can I prove that I am the correct person and that the digital credential belongs to me? So this is an important topic. We are convinced that this will be a standard tomorrow, but we need standards today. So we need to work hand in hand with other projects, and this kind of project is really valuable for us because we build the standards, and we are totally involved in these next standards. So this is important for startups like us who are really discovering new topics and working on new standards, and that are working with an important research and development team. So it is important for us, of course.
Okay, so in other words, that because of blockchain as a technology, because of the standards issue, you had to operate at European level. In other words, you could not develop your business without being in a European context, if I understand correctly.
We believe so, yes, of course, because we are adopting the important standards, the important requirements regarding this new activity. The blockchain is still an emerging technology, even if it's largely and widely adopted by a lot of different industries. But we have legal issues, we have technical issues that are important. So all these different topics are different pieces of what we are building for the solution tomorrow and the next evolutions we will add to our application.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you, Alexis. I'm just looking if we have any questions from the audience. We don't seem to have any, so I will continue with my own questions. Angelika, you mentioned the challenges of you were facing as a cluster, as a person working in a cluster and trying to engage your clients, as it were, SMEs. You mentioned there was no funding for traveling. So how did you manage to actually convince companies, in your case in Germany, that it was worth their while to be involved in the Laser Grow Global project?
Was really so to get them involved in the missions itself. It was really helpful when there was an other on-site event in the market. For example, we had in the USA or in Israel where was larger trade shows or conferences where also kind of joint booths or some representation on-site could be offered. So the companies could not only focus on the missions within the project, but had a kind of a complete package. And this made it more likely that they could get the internal financing, indeed. That was one of the major triggers to initiate the participation in the travels.
Okay, so there was no cash that was given to them individually, but you had activities which they could not conduct themselves on their own. The fact of having this collective approach at European level allowed them to save time, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay, that's clear. Okay, so it's not only, so it's in-kind support, if not actual cash support, huh? Yeah. Okay. Rubén, you had cash support, even though it wasn't a huge amount. Would you say that, would it be fair to say you wouldn't have done this experimentation if you had not had the funding from RIMA?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, with this kind of research and development activities, it is hard to get funding from, to be able as a company to allocate a part of your budget to execute these kinds of activities if there is not a clear result. This one was an idea that we have. It was something that we wanted to prove. And having this funding made it possible. The only investment that we have to do was time. well, time is also scarce. At least it's easier to get, I guess, than money. So yeah.
So because it was innovative, your idea was innovative in terms of R&D and innovation, the EU funding was instrumental in order to get that experimented and to basically get to the results. And just to follow up on that one, now the project is finished. It's been finished for quite a few months. Do you have any traction in the market as a result of that? Has it increased your visibility as a company? I mean, you already are quite a fairly big company, obviously, but has it had concrete benefits? Commercially, maybe a bit early, but have you seen some good traction there?
Yeah, as you said, commercially, it's still a bit early, but we have been contacted with companies about what to transform this into a business models. We're trying to find a sweet spot in which we focus more on the analysis, and other companies can focus more on the drone and the performance of the flight. And we have open conversations with 3 companies at the moment. So we're working on that, and yes, it's looking good.
Great, thank you, Rubén. And Alexis, again, I mean, if I take the example of blockchain for Europe or BHub, there was no cash payment for you. It was you described the mentoring. Would you say that it had, as a company for BHub, for BC Diploma, have you seen some visible results? Has it increased your visibility? Has it allowed you to be more credible, as it were, or for blockchain at least, and your application to be more credible? What would you say are the concrete benefits for you?
Okay, so of course, concrete benefits is that we gain in visibility, and that's important for a startup of any size to participate to such projects. Because we benefit from the task force of the program, so this is really important to us. And maybe the most concrete side of the collaboration is on the business side, because there are a lot of institutional participants also to this program, and we could get introductions to potential users of our solution. So this is super important for us to get help in the business development. We are still a small team, and it's hard to prospect everywhere. So with qualified introductions, it facilitates the business, and we can reach easily the stakeholders, the decision makers that will choose BC Diploma, that will adopt the solution in their institutions. So maybe the most valuable topic was the business development support for BC Diploma across Europe.
Okay, so again, to use the word that Jean-Luc Bella used, an accelerator, as it were. So we use the word catalyst and accelerator. So BHub, and generally speaking, your involvement in EU-funded programs is an accelerator for you as a business, because you're a small company. Yeah?
Definitely. We want to grow up as fast as possible, but we need to work step by step. So this is important, and once again, any support is welcome, and BHub team has been really helpful regarding the business development. We are also preparing a fundraising in the next months to come. So we are also actively working on this with the introductions, potential introductions. So this is it. We are really working on a concrete projects, and I would definitely recommend any startup that has a synergy, that has a strategy on a European level to participate and to try to find programs funded by the European Commission.
Great, Alexis. This is exactly what I was going to say as a conclusion to this panel, that effectively these are only some examples. I mean, we present very specific examples, but there are many more programs. You need to really spend some time. And by the way, just to have a bit of publicity on our side, this is what we do at Systematic, and all the clusters do with their members. They try to sift through all this information. There's a lot of information at EU level. It needs to be dissected and analyzed, and if I can draw the curtains to us, if I pull the blanket to us, it's that it's useful to be a part of an ecosystem, whether it's a cluster in particular, to gain access to this information. Thanks very much to the 3 of you, Angelika, Rubén, Alexis, for your participation. I think it was very useful. So we have now reached the third and last session of our conference. We will be moving to our pitch session. And of course, you can stay with us, Angelika, Rubén, and Alexis, if you are interested in listening to what our different presenters have to say. So pitch session, we have normally we should have 12 pitches for you to listen. And just to remind our presenters that they have 5 minutes So please stick to the time. I will unfortunately have to cut you if you go beyond the 5 minutes. And the first one, hopefully, is there, and it's Sophie Demour from Fun Voice. Sophie, if you want to join us, come on stage, as it were, and present your pitch for Horizon Europe. Okay, so I'm being told that Sophie is connecting. Okay, so I think Sophie is having problem connecting, so we'll move to the next one. I think it's Laurent Guiraud who's with us, hopefully. Laurent for Colibri TD or TD. I hope you are able to connect, and I hope you're able to.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Laurent. Okay, so you have 5 minutes. Thanks for joining.
Okay, thanks. So next slide. Thank you. So Laurent Guiraud, I'm the head of quantum R&D at Colibri TD. Next slide. Okay, who we are. So Colibri TD has been founded in 2019. So we started the quantum R&D, quantum computing R&D in February 2021. We have around right now 7 engineers on quantum computing dedicated to creating algorithms and developing a platform on quantum computing. So what is our goal? So we are the platform quantum computing as a service. That's important. It's a PCAS. There's hardware provider, quantum computing hardware provider. We are the software and platform level. So that's important to understand where we start. And our goal is to bring the quantum advantage to companies that will not be able to have their own quantum computing team. We tend to be hardware agnostic. We tend to basically hide the quantum complexity to our end customers. That's really what we are trying to achieve with our quantum computing platform, which is called QUIC, for Quantum Innovative Computing Kit framework. Next slide. So where do we play? We are currently playing in a very specific area of Horizon Europe, which is strengthening the quantum software ecosystem for quantum computing platform. So that's directly our topic, and we are directly into this topic. And the goal is to develop quantum-specific algorithms and methods to apply them to problem solving in a wide variety of industrial fields, which is basically what we are in every day. So how do we go for that? We tend to build a modular platform, because today we are on a stage where hardware, software, algorithms are moving fast, evolving fast. So we have to be able to reorganize and redefine our platform in a very modular way. We want to be hardware agnostic, because one key subject is that hardware there's different technology being used right now. We don't know which one will be the one that will be the winning one in the 10 to 15 years time. So what now we have to develop with the current existing platform that are also evolving. So we have to be agnostic in terms of hardware. We also have to be use case agnostic. That's the difficult part of our work, because most of the companies in our field tend to be use case specific. But we do think 90% of the use case we are going to see in the quantum computing space are unknown for now. We really have to be careful. What are we looking at? Right now, our company has 2 years. We started the R&D 6 months ago. We need investments, because time to market is important, it's key, and we need people to develop our algorithm. So that's what we are currently looking. And we are also looking, and we are already working with some industrial, but we are looking at industrial partners to develop proof of concepts and basically validate most of our hypotheses in terms of quantum computing. So we really think we are well placed in terms of the Horizon Europe topic. So I'm done. Next slide. It's our contact. So we are two in the company as the associate, two founders, myself, the technical part, and Hassan Guljil, the business part of the company. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you, Laurent, and thank you for sticking to the time. That's I'm very grateful. Our next speaker is Alexander Seignier from Adecor, or Alexandre. I don't know if I'm saying the right Christian name.
Alex is probably
Alex
the right.
is okay. Even better. Yeah. Voice mistake. The floor is yours, Alex, for 5 minutes.
And obviously you can hear me. Thank you. So next slide, please. I am the lead of cybersecurity at Adecor. Next slide. Who is Adecor? We are a company which has been around for a while already. It's founded in 1994. We have currently around about 120 employees worldwide, and headquarters is in Paris and New York as well. And Adecor is active generally in domains where high integrity is key and must be provided. And generally in situations where lives are at stake or a lot of money is at stake, such as defense, avionics, railway, or air traffic management. So that's our domain, and we have a particular expertise in compilers, in building compilers, and code generation, and we focus on embedded devices, which are typically hard to update and hard to patch. So they often need to be correct on the first try, because updating deeply embedded systems is often very hard. And for that reason, we also offer tools and support regarding static and dynamic analysis to make sure that the code has the properties. We also go as far as doing formal verification, and one tool to mention in that domain is Spark. Spark is a programming language that we offer at the tool set that allows you to mathematically prove properties of your code, and you do that by attaching contracts to that code, and then have a tool set that proves that these contracts that you have put there actually are obeyed by the code that you have written, and often this is done automatically, and then you have then certain guarantees that your code actually behaves as intended and does not exhibit any undesired, undefined behavior. Next slide, please. So what's our goals with respect to Horizon Europe? So the project that we have in mind, and there's already a pretty good consortium set up to go into that direction, is called FormalGuard. And FormalGuard is aiming at building a secure and safe computing platform for handling trustworthy data with end-to-end guarantees. It's centered around a novel CPU design that we will be building in the project. And this CPU differs from classic CPUs in that it can calculate properties next to the data that is calculated. So if you have certain security properties like confidentiality, the CPU at the same time is also calculating these properties together with the data that's being calculated. That's different from current CPUs, which don't really know the properties of your data. So the operating system may have configured your page table in a certain way so that hopefully data of one application doesn't mix with another, but the CPU isn't really aware of that. It's you have to trust the operating system or even the application on top to do the right thing here. And what we want to provide in the project and with that novel CPU design is a way to prove from the application over the operating system level down to the actual execution at the CPU that your desired security properties hold. And trap and raise an exception if that's not the case. The CPU design has been done by Beyond Semiconductors in Slovenia. Then we have on board Cisco as an operating system vendor from Germany, SBA Research in Austria, and of course ourselves, who are concerned with formal verification and language design. And we are looking, while we are pretty strong already on the technical side and on the implementation side, we are looking for partners who can provide us with use cases. So the problem right now is there are some very well understood use cases like confidentiality. We are pretty certain how to implement that, but we are also sure that there are other high integrity use cases and use cases that require high assurance, like an autonomous driving, that have other properties that should be tackled in the same way, but we are not aware of them yet. So if you're a company having these use cases where mixed criticality, so trusted and untrusted data on the same platform, on the same CPU, is a topic, and you need high trustworthiness, then we would be interested in hearing from you. So we could use these strong use cases to guide the development of the platform and tackle the right properties. Next slide, please. So if you think that's interesting for you, contact me, and I can get you in touch with the consortium. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you for being on time and very specific. Our next speaker is Mr. Yao Li from Intento Design. Yao, the floor is yours for 5 minutes for Intento Design.
Okay, hello everyone. Today I'm glad to next slide. Sorry. My name is Yao Li, and I'm the engineer director of Intento Design. Next step, please. I'm glad to present our product ED-Explore. ED-Explore is a cognitive artificial intelligence software for design and migration of analog chips, which is fully addressed to the European semiconductor ecosystem. Next slide, please. And what we are, Intento Design is founded in May 2015, and we are a French-based company in the semiconductor industry. We are located at Paris. We have won several European and French grants to up to 2 million euros, and also we have several patents over the European countries, US, and Israel. Besides, we are the active member. Besides, we are the active member of IC2 in US. We contribute to the standardization of data model for AI in the electronic design automation software. Today, we have 3 products: ED-Explore, ED-Explore system, and ID substrate. ED-Explore is used for the block level design and migration for analog circuit, and ED-Explore is used for system level design and migration. And the ID substrate is used to simulate substrate noise effects such as latch-up for automotive and high-power applications. We have disruptive AI technologies to automate the chip production, and we have very good experiments in coordinary European project with proven results. Next slide, please. The 2 topics we have chosen for European-enabled technology for beyond 5G, 6G, distributed architecture, and AI, data, and robotic for industry optimization. For the first topics, based on our design and migration flow, we propose to add the final step of automatic mask generation in cooperation with German partners. This German partner proposed this partnership to have a full European flow for analog chip design, from front end to back end. For the second topic, we propose to deploy a trustworthy AI technologies in European project in both software and hardware. This allows in chips design shift from data-driven AI to knowledge graph-based driven AI. We would like, well, what do we need from our potential partners? Actually, we would like to join a consortium of industry partners, such as integrated device manufacturer, fabless, and foundries. We propose to use our flow to design and validate their product, their chips, and the industry partners will act as an advisor during the project to improve the flow and our flow and the developed technology. Finally, we hope the partner can help us to disseminate the success story. And this is very important for us to get more partnership and cooperations from other industry partners. And that's all. Next slide. And this is my coordinary, and I'm glad to share with you more information about our product. And feel free to contact me and if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Yao. So I'm having trouble with my.
Hello. Hello.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, I had problem. Sorry, I had problem with my microphone. So our next speaker is Yazi Yi and also Eneka Idiar-Barsum from Huawei. So the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Yazi. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I'm Yazi. I'm principal researcher and industry development director of the Huawei Datacom networks. Next slide, please. And a few words about Huawei, and I think thanks to Trump, we are much well known in the worldwide in the recent years. Created in 1987, we have almost 200,000 global employees, more than half of them in working R&D. And we are an enterprise deeply rooted in Europe with 13,800 direct employees. We have 23 research centers in Europe with 7.3 billion euros of purchase with more than 3,000 European suppliers. In France, we have, since 2014, we have 200 million euro R&D investment, and for the year of 2019 is 60 million euros. So in brief, we invest heavily in R&D in Europe, and we are here. Actually, the funding is not the most important for us. It's the most important for us is people are staying here. We want to find partners, build networks, and improve the ecosystems. And for today, of course, the Huawei's business is quite wide. And for today, we have the data communication product line plus optical that we have introduced. Next slide, please. So our vision on the internet is that we want to put IP, the internet protocol, on everything. It is that. So we are very interested in the IPv6 and the IPv6 enhanced innovations. We believe those are the key for the future internet, for the numerous connections to provide high quality connections as well as smart connections. Next slide, please. And for the Huawei Datacom, the data communication networks, we are interested in topics related to internet technology, like internet architecture, the next generation for safer internet, and trust and data sovereignty on the internet. So, of course, it's hard to dig into every detail of this big company, but we can provide top researchers and teams in the all the aspects of the future internet, including network architecture, AI, network calculus, measurements, routing, etc. And we are looking for experts from academia and SMEs with ambitions to build the future internet together. So we want to reach the partners here. And I will bring Angelika. You are there, right?
Yes, I'm there.
Yes, I finished in exactly 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so me, I'm Eneka Idiar-Barsum. I represent the optical product line. So what's the vision of Huawei on optical? That's simple. In fact, it's a fiber to everything and to everywhere. It means from data center to home, and from home to the room, and on the campus, from the building as well, and on the factory to the machine. Next slide, please. So in European, in Horizon Europe topics, we are interested in 2 cores in digital emerging, one in advanced photonic integrated circuits, and the other one in optical communication components. And as well, we are interested in artificial intelligence for human empowering, and in particular with application to environmental market. So what can we offer to our partners, we can act as an end user to contribute from a system perspective on technical specification and scenario. And as well, we can contribute on artificial intelligence for optical systems. So it means either communication or sensing, physical layer, or management and automation purpose. What do we need from potential partners? We would like to connect with environment experts, and of course with academia researchers, SMEs that are offering optical technologies, algorithm, and enabling devices. Thank you.
Next
Thank
slide.
you.
Yes.
So the next slide, the details, yes.
Yes, if there's any, because our introduction is quite general. If you are interested in want any further information, don't hesitate to contact us. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jazzy. Thank you, Ineka. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Next speaker is Jean Romer from the Léonard de Vinci Research Center. Jean, the floor is yours for 5 minutes. Thank you. You need to unmute your microphone. You need to unmute your microphone. It's muted.
Is it okay now?
No, it's okay now. We can hear you.
Okay,
Go ahead.
thank you. So I first want on the next slide present what is De Vinci Research Center and what is Paul Léonard de Vinci. Paul Léonard de Vinci is a private non-profit university created in a bit more than 25 years ago. We have an important development recently. We are a permanent staff of more than 300 people, and we are 8,000 students. We are located in Paris La Défense, and one of the characteristics is that under the same management we are 3 schools of engineering, school of management, and school in web games domain. So we have one unique research center, which is called DVRC, which is a joint research laboratory between the engineers and business people. Which means in projects we can offer competence both in technical domain, but also in management domain, innovation domain, technology adaptation, and so on. In total, we are 64 researchers, including 13 HDR, and we have with us 30 PhD students. We're organized in 4 research groups: digital, about digital, computer science, finance, both corporate finance and blockchain market finance, modeling, that means everything about physics, the physics of materials, simulation, and business research. We already participate in collaborative projects for many years through systematic FUI project, H2020, and also Erasmus. Another point is that we can also provide the facility to host PhD students, which could be hired by companies and or also co-host or co-fund PhD thesis, which is a good way to cooperate with partners. On the next slide, this is where we can bring something and what can we expect from European projects. I have not given precise project goals, but in general, we are concentrated on the clusters 4 and 5 domains, and we would like to concentrate on the following things: smart city, industry 4.0, and digital twins, in which we have already experience and a lot of research. Our main domains of expertise, which we could bring in a consortium, is everything around applied mathematics, modeling, simulation code. Also, simulation study of smart materials, both thermal properties in materials, also shape memory materials, also simulation of 3D manufacturing properties. We have a good experience in smart grids and energy networks optimization, both from mathematical point of view and also simulation with AI also with AI in these domains. In data management for industry, we are good experts in NoSQL and data, on distributed data system, and also on scalability. Last but not least, we have experience in artificial intelligence, both in the domains of deep learning for Industry 4.0 data, and also in natural language processing with artificial intelligence. To conclude, we would like to join consortia of small companies, startups, large groups, and with this focus on data management and process optimization. Next slide. So if you want to start contact, please send me an email and we'll be happy to discuss with you.
Thank you very much, Jean. Thank you very much for this insight. Our next speaker is Leo Maurice from Calima. Leo, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Can you hear me well? Great, okay. So hello everyone, so my name is Leo Maurice, I'm a business developer at Calima System. So what's Calima? Next slide please. So Calima, we are a French company based in Paris. We've been founded in 2012 and today we have a team of 7 permanent employees. And what we have created is a blockchain protocol for the Internet of Things. So basically what we do is we help businesses to develop blockchain application for the Internet of Things to help them to interconnect people, devices, and services with trust and security to create value. So now by 2025, 80% of the data will be processed and will take place in smart connected objects such as cars, home appliances, manufacturing, robots, etc. So the data will be processed close to the users. We say that data will be processed at the edge and not on the cloud. So we built Calima blockchain to provide a universe of galaxies of blockchain with smart contracts that can be executed at the edge. So we have a combination of interconnection of blockchain, and this can solve the issues of scalability, so increasing the scalability, and lower the energy consumption. So Calima aims to solve the security, traceability, and integrity issues of IoT to help our partners and clients to develop decentralized applications, so what we call dApps. Today we have a mature technology that is deployed in industrial environments. So we work with NEDs, for example, since 2017. We work in the automotive industry since 2012 with Tenneco for just-in-time supply chain and with other key industrial players. So next slide, please. So regarding the European call, we focus on 2 clusters, so cluster 5 and 6. Regarding the cluster 5, it will be very interesting to find partners about the call sustainable, secure, and competitive energy supply, because we already have blockchain applications that are working for energy supplier, and we think we can have great value for our partners. And for the cluster 6, food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and environment, we'll be very interested to discuss about how blockchain can increase the transparency of EU food system. And with the combination of Calima system, IoT, and blockchain, we think we can help to track and trace food and increase the transparency of the food system. So basically what we can bring, our expertise is, of course, our blockchain protocol designed for the IoT. That's very important. And few points here, we have a green technology, so we consume very low amounts of resources. We do not use mining, And we can be embedded into small devices, so embedded into IoT gateways, for example, even in vehicles or in directly on a smartphone. And lastly, we can bring smart contract and AI at the edge. I said that in the intro, that's a very important point. And we provide a real decentralization of governance with our system of interconnection of blockchain. Well, next slide. I think I'm done here. So here you have my contacts and also the email of our CEO. So do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have any question of project or blockchain. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leo. Thank you for very punctual. Our next speaker is Jérôme Rampon for Algodon. Jérôme, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Okay. Do you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead, and you can see your slide.
That's perfect. Thank you for moving to the next slide. Okay, so I'm Jérôme Rampon. I'm the president and CEO of Algodon. It's a French startup based in Montpellier, in south of France, created in 2015. And we developed first our product and our business from 18. We are 10 persons. Our revenue this year is around 210k euro. And we raised 1.6 million euro from private funding. We propose turnkey solutions to manage networks of connected objects. When I mention connected objects, it's the famous acronym, but in fact, we focus on hardware objects, which can be a chip, a board, a full system, or a full device. And it doesn't necessarily need to be permanently connected. We need to be able to interface with the object. So we are proposing security solutions to manage and control connected objects, to activate, deactivate the objects, to identify them, authenticate the objects, but also as a standard features, and we are pretty unique on that, we can meter the usage of the connected object in full security and report back, monitor some sensitive data of control. Our main differentiator is that we are an end-to-end security solution because our technology is implemented at the hardware level. So it's very complex to attack. This is inside the connected objects. So we are beyond the communication. Of course, we secure the communication between the connected object and the servers. But with the edge computing development, we are complete protection to protect the intellectual property inside the object. Of course, we focus and we target the connected objects of high complexity and which evolve in hostile environment. Because of this security that we bring, we also propose and permit new disruptive business model for hardware elements and devices. And we already deployed this type of new monetization model for hardware as a service, pay-per-use, or micropayment for different customers. Next slide, please. So in terms of technology, just two words. So we are really an end-to-end security solution, which is the important point behind our technology, in the sense that you may find some concurrent to control and manage connected objects, but they stop at the border of the connected object. They do not propagate internally the sensitive data in a secure way. So with Algodon, this is propagated in simple schemes from the processor to different functions that you want to protect and bring or collect sensitive data. So this is unique and patented. It has been developed with a research lab in Montpellier, specialized in hardware security and chips and microelectronics. And we bring also more functionality for higher security in our platform. So next slide, please. So we are looking for partners. As you can see, we are a transverse technology, so we can consider different industrial segments. We are specialized also in semiconductors, so would like to find partners around the cluster 4. We can probably participate to all the digital emerging sub elements, but also to the data cluster for proposals. So international cooperation in semiconductors seems to be the most accurate for us. We can offer a cybersecurity technology at the hardware level. We can also be implemented at the embedded level, but the hardware focus is really the best to bring the higher security. And of course, the sooner it is done in the designing of a semiconductor, the better it is. And that's the reason why we would like to participate to design phases of any chip or system or boards or full device. So we are looking for partners that have high innovative technologies in semiconductor industry. And you can contact us in the next slide.
Thank you very much, Jérôme. Thank you for being very punctual also on your side.
Okay, thanks
very much. Our next speaker is Thomas Benoit from Set in Stone. Thomas, the floor is yours for 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much to this. So, hello, my name is Thomas Benoit. And next slide, yes, I'm the CEO of Set in Stone. And so what is Set in Stone? It's an application of blockchain for cybersecurity issue. Concretely, our product is a corporate registered mail. That's meaning when the sender sends a message to someone, they have a safe channel to send the message and a great traceability of what to know what we should do on this message. Around this mission, this product, we have 4 missions. The first one is data sovereignty. Sovereignty is why we have built a great ecosystem environment on this mission, and systematic parity is one of the major actors of this ecosystem. Our product is also easy to use, easy to set up for the end user and the administrator. And every piece of the product is built in Europe, in France, and more exactly. So we locate in Paris, in France. And so what is exactly the application of Set in Stone? Please, next slide. And so our application, most specifically, is for company, of course, but also for typical type of communication. So if for critical piece of data, so from the COVID crisis, data is more mobile, but also more vulnerable, and critical data is also affected by this aspect. And the mission of Set in Stone is to protect the communication for external communication. So, for example, between holding and subsidiary, and for internal communication. So, for example, in the case of financial department organize its remote working. So, in this context, data is outside the security perimeter of the company, and our mission is to extend this perimeter. Is why we offer a transparency right to our user, our clients. In this right is the right to know for a sender company what our data is manipulated and handled by its recipients. So we are a SaaS platform. We could integrate Set in Stone in many messaging to offer a great UX experience. So for example, in Outlook or Gmail. And our traceability is based on blockchain. Every piece of analysis of metrics traces is on blockchain to offer a trust metrics and a trust vision of how recipient manipulate your data. So next slide, please. So why today we are here today is because we have a vision about blockchain, and we think that blockchain is a key technology of the tomorrow European citizen cybersecurity. With blockchain is a great system of traceability to allow every citizen to know how companies tomorrow will manipulate their data. If in the transaction, if the company will respect the RGPD, for example. And furthermore, blockchain is highly resilient, is a high infrastructure, very resistant to many types of attacks. However, the problem of blockchain today is more the scalability, democratizing of this type of technology to ensure both good services and high privacy and security. And we want to to offer high scalability with a good level of security. Is why we want to participate to the cluster for within Europe about blockchain, the internet architecture, and centralized technology. So we are looking for potential partner in other type of cybersecurity layer or data, but also in research and development. Or, of course, if you are not in this list, if you are interested by the project, don't hesitate to contact us. So in the next slide, please, you will find our my contact detail to contact us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you also for sticking to the allocated time. Very much obliged about that. Our next speaker is Yves Shemla from United Biometrics. Yves, the floor is yours for 5 minutes. Don't forget to unmute your microphone.
Oh, it went back. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to everyone. So I'm the co-founder of United Biometrics that we create 7 years ago, 2014. Please, next slide. So United Biometrics is already providing a high secure multi-factor biometric anti-fraud authentication solution. We are working towards ID as well, with ID proofing, with a KYC solution, for example, for banking. We would like to target, we have some reference down below with big groups that are using and providing our solution to their end customer. So next slide, please. So what we are looking is to develop partnership. It can be business first, for sure, and as well for research, for example, for post-quantum authentication and ID management, because that's got to be a very high challenge. What we can offer to complement, let's say, offers in various sectors is in banking, healthcare, corporation, and government. We are for sure respecting all the European values like GDPR and anonymization whenever we are using biometrics. We can run at very fast rates in authentication, holding a bank secure flow. We need partners to develop business, but as well for R&D in the post-quantum authentication and ID management. We didn't choose any reason perfect topic. We can slot almost whenever you need security. We can slot in any project. So please do contact us. And on the next slide, you're going to have my direct contact and details. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yves. You've been even more economical with the time, so we're very grateful for that.
Yeah, United Biometrics is fast.
Yes, definitely. You've proven it today. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Our next speaker is Alexis Nollet from EcoMesure. We're talking about green transition. I think you are perfectly in line with our topic today, Alexis. So the floor is yours. Your camera is not activated. I don't know if you want to do that. But I can see your name and I can hear you. Go ahead.
You can hear me. Okay, perfect. Yes. I don't know why the camera is not working. I think it's an issue with Google Chrome, so I apologize about that.
No worries. Go ahead.
As long as you can hear me, I guess that's the most important.
Yes, we can hear you.
So hello, everybody. My name is Alexis Nollet. I'm the Chief Sales Officer at EcoMesure. You can go to the next slide, please. So who is EcoMesure? We are a French company based in Saclay in what is called the French Silicon Valley. We've been founded in 1993, so we're close to 30 years old. And we have two core activities. Originally, we were founded as a distributor and a maintenance company for scientific instrument of metrology, so air quality control, but scientific instrument. And in 2014, the company was bought by Damien Pelletier, the current CEO, who directed it into a new field, which was designing and manufacturing smart environmental monitors to provide environmental sensors to customers around the world. So currently, we're a fairly small company. We're about 20 people. we have a turnover of about 5 million euros, which was a big increase from last year for us. So definitely, I guess COVID helped on that in some way. And so our core activity right now in terms of connected system is to design and manufacture monitors for outdoor and indoor air quality. So those monitors allow you to monitor in real time all kinds of pollutants and environmental parameters, and to visualize and analyze them on an online platform, which can be integrated in broader services like hypervisors or aggregators. Next slide, please. And so we technically have 2 locations. We're based in Paris and Boston as well. We applied 2 patents, one on the hardware for the monitoring stations themselves, and one on the software part of our activity, using artificial intelligence to do compensation of parameters to provide the most accurate data to our customers. And so air quality is definitely a subject that is up to date. More and more cities are looking into looking at the quality of the air in their territories. And there are different ways to do that. You can either use a big monitoring station, which are called reference stations, that cost upward to 200,000 a piece, and thus are not very easy to install, and clients cannot use a lot of them, but our small systems allow for densification of that measurement. So instead of having maybe a station every 50 square kilometers around city centers, you can have, for the same cost, around 50 stations. And so the density of the measurement allow for a much better accuracy, and thus much better analysis of what's happening in cities. And some use cases that we've worked on in the past, for instance, determining the pollution sources for cities. So you can do triangulation using several monitoring stations with wind sensors to calculate where the pollution comes from. It can be used for traffic management as well, if sensors are placed at road crossings in correlations with video surveillance. You can actually look at the improvement of traffic and what kind of result it has on the air quality for the neighborhood. So it's very important to use this kind of solutions for before and after comparison on services. And what we're looking for here at Horizon Europe is a different kind of partners. So we are definitely we're interested in looking for companies that can complement our offer, in the sense that air quality monitoring is definitely important, but if it can be matched with air quality purification, for instance, those are 2 subjects that are totally complementary for end clients, and so that's very interesting for us. We are also interested in doing more broader integrations, working with maybe street furniture manufacturers that are interested in providing some extra services in their systems. And so our system could be integrated in that. And we are also interested in finding new partners in terms of technology solutions, both on the hardware and software side. It is in the sense that we are always looking to provide more solutions. We're looking to provide more solutions to clients. And so we are always looking to integrate more sensors and more parameters for the clients to monitor. Next slide, please. And so, as I was saying, we've been doing projects in a lot of different countries. We have more than 6,000 stations deployed around the world. And if you'd like to know more about our projects or discuss some potential partnerships or interested in using our product, here are my contact details. I think I'm right by the 5 minutes. And
you are just over 5 minutes, Alexis. But you're fine. You're fine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Our next speaker, I believe, is Eric Pila of Cara 7. The floor is yours for 5 minutes, Eric.
Yeah, it's Cara 7. Cara 7 is because car is an asset, so there is a we play with a number in French, and we will explain that to the English-speaking people. Cara 7 is an app used to manage everything around the car. To understand what is the total cost of ownership and how to migrate to more sustainable mobilities. And part of the new sustainable mobilities are the electric vehicles. And we have to be aware that the value of an electric vehicle is very much on the electric battery, and the battery. Yes, that's the topic. In fact, the value of the battery is about between 30 to 45% of the electric vehicle. So it means that this value has to be managed very carefully. Otherwise, when you'll sell your car as a second-hand car, you might have lost this portion of the value of your car. So it's very important to monitor this battery and to manage and to compute what we call the battery state of health. So there are many works around this, and there are also a group in the US, which is a non-profit organization called MOBI, Mobility Open Blockchain Initiative, so using blockchain for many topics around mobility, and among them it is a battery state of health. And in fact, we are very much at the very beginning of the research around this, and it would be worth to have a group of research around this topic with battery manufacturers. Hopefully we have some battery manufacturers in Europe, and OEM, and perhaps car dealers, but the car dealers might not have the research capability to work on that, but at least the OEM and the battery manufacturers, they have to work on a methodology to compute and to analyze on a real-time basis, see the state of health of the battery. Doing so, we will put more transparency on the second-hand market, because of course the second-hand market will be very much linked to this measure for electric vehicles. So we are looking for partners from OEM and battery manufacturers, and perhaps also startups working on that to perhaps to set up a standard and a methodology to compute this value. And to deep into detail this topic, they can contact me on this email address. Cara 7 is at Station F, at the accelerator of l'École des Ponts, and we will be very happy to collaborate with other parties on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And I have noted the play on word. I didn't get it initially, so thanks for enlightening me on that. Thanks for your presentation. I need to speak a little bit before we are joined by our last presenter, who was due to be the first. That is Sophie Demeaux, but I can see that my colleagues have been extremely efficient and they've got the slides already. So Sophie, the floor is yours for Fine Voice.
Okay.
For 5 minutes. Go ahead. And your camera is not open, by the way.
Yes, I don't know why.
You don't know. Okay, don't worry.
Technical issues. Sorry.
Okay, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So yes, I'm Sophie Demeaux. I'm innovation manager at Fine Voice, and so I'm going to present you a little bit our activities. So next slide, please. So Fine Voice is a French SME. It's an online participative and co-creation platform where you can build deliberative consultations in order to ask citizens their opinion on one project, service, or concept. And thanks to our platform, you can very easily set co-creation process. And the objective is to collect many citizens and stakeholder feedback. And moreover, you can build a community, including citizens, organization, municipality, for example, every stakeholders you want to involve in your project, and it allows them to think and discuss on different subjects. And one major benefit of our platform is that we use artificial intelligence and natural language processing in order to analyze a very large volume of citizen feedbacks. And our solution categorizes contributions in a 2-dimension insight map, and so it becomes much more easy to explore topics and ideas of contributors. And so the platform participates to citizen engagement and social innovation. And you can imagine very different types of participatory process. You have some of them here, but it's very to you to imagine what you want to ask to people. So next slide, please. So what is a FanVoice added value in European project? So the platform could be used in many proposals for Horizon Europe, and we propose to provide it to help any project or consortium to easily analyze citizens' feedbacks and understand their needs and expectations, which is a very asked contribution in Horizon Europe calls. So in fact, you can improve your proposal on different points like citizen empowerment, society acceptance, develop a better solution or a product by testing it with user and analyze user feedbacks and maximize impact and dissemination. And moreover, FanVoice has a great experience of European research and development consortium, and we are very active in the consortium building. So feel free to contact me. On the next slide, you have my email address if you want to collaborate with FanVoice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sophie, and thank you for being also within the time limit. Well, listen, guys, it's 12:59. Anyone that tells me the French people cannot keep to timing will be probably wrong on this occasion. Anyway, this was the last session of our conference, but not the end of 100% Europe, because at 2 p.m. we have our brokerage meeting, so we will be able to open our matchmaking platform. You should have received emails with your agendas and the time, so make sure you connect with the people who have asked meetings with you, or the ones you have asked meeting from. So please do that. And I take this opportunity to wish you all fruitful interactions, whether it's on Horizon Europe topics or other related topics, commercial or otherwise. I will finish this conference by thanking all our speakers for their time and for sharing their thoughts. And in particular, thank you to those of you who took the difficult exercise of pitching. It's not an easy one, and keeping to the time, that was really, really great. Thank you to our audience for joining our event. I know it's always difficult to find the time to connect to those webinars. There's so many of them. So we are really grateful to you for your patience and your participation. And I will just finish by saying a big thank you to the organization team at Systematic, and in particular to Catherine and her team and my colleagues from the European department. So thank you to all. Goodbye, and hopefully see you and talk to you soon this year or next year. Take care, all the best. Thank you very much. Bye.
J'arrive pas. En fait, j'arrive pas à fermer. C'est bon.